I would have been here. I actually changed my vacation so I could be here.
Spent some $7 million.
And then I had to be in the hospital.
Be a few minutes and we can get started.
Okay.
Getting YouTube going.
I'll wait for you to give me the high sign.
We get started.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll have a roll call. Commission Member Hennis here. Commission Member Hines is absent. Commission Member Lucas.
Here.
Commission Member Whitmore.
Here.
Commission Member Alphen.
Here.
Please take notice that the May 11th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting will be held by electronic means pursuant to the continuity of government ordinance effective April 6, 2022, due to the threats posed by the COVID-19 pandemic to the health, safety, and welfare of the public. While some commission members may participate remotely, staff will be present presenting as normal in the Board of Supervisors meeting room at 150 South Main Street, Lexington, 24450. In addition to citizens attending the meeting in person, citizens have several options to view or participate in the Zoom meeting webinar as described below. We will do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. One, to join the Rockbridge County Planning Commission Zoom webinar. The link is available on the county website to copy into the address line on your browser. Two, to join by telephone, you may dial in to one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Planning Commission YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you are calling in by telephone. At this time, we will proceed with the meeting. First, we will take citizen comments. Staff, do we have anyone physically present to speak?
Okay. Yes, sir.
These are comments that are not related to anything that's on the agenda.
All right. Fred Ryan, would you like to speak on the solar ordinance? Yeah. Or I'm sorry, solar application. Okay, that'll be a main thing. Tim Jackson, same way. Okay. So no one signed up. This is a time for citizen comments for anything that's not on the agenda. With that, if anybody'd like to speak of anything that's not on the agenda, please raise your hand now. Not seeing any. Let me check the Zoom. If there's anyone online that would like to use your raise hand button now to speak, go ahead and do so for anything that's not on the agenda. Not seeing any.
We don't have any written comments.
We do not have any written comments associated with the citizen comment period. No, ma'am. With
Okay.
that, turn the floor back over to you.
Great. So we'll move on with the approval. We have two sets of minutes that we need to approve. The first will be the March 9th, 2022 meeting minutes. Have you all had an opportunity to review those? So I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, so those minutes are approved as submitted. Then we have April 13th, 2022 minutes. I was not present there, but did everybody get a chance to review those? Okay, so we need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion to approve.
I'll second.
And second, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'm abstaining since I was not here. So next we have the board reports. Staff will give us those reports.
Yes, at the April 25th, 2022 meeting, the Board of Supervisors approved the CNS disposal, Mr. C. Flint's amending the existing special exception permit as recommended by the Planning Commission. In addition, they approved the IOCA application as well, but slightly modified the number of dogs to include 30 total. So y'all had included, the Planning Commission, I should say, had included the recommendation of 30 dogs for breeding purposes. And they actually reduced that amount and included 30 dogs total. And that includes some juveniles that weren't ready for breeding and some older dogs that were no longer utilized for breeding.
They also, excuse me, they on St. Dunstan's, there was a motion to approve the St. Dunstan's application as submitted. That motion did not get seconded, and there was no other official action taken on that agenda item. And so I'm gonna read something I mailed out yesterday. On May 4th, 2022, Rockbridge County Attorney Miss Vicki Huffman received a letter from Mr. Mark Looney, an attorney with Cooley LLP representing St. Dunstan's Academy. The May 4th letter identified Mr. Looney's concerns and objections about the process by which the Board of Supervisors considered the application. Mr. Looney contends that the Board of Supervisors' failure to take action contradicts a section of the code of the County Code of Land Development Regulations. With that, at the May 9th, 2022 meeting this past Monday, the Board of Supervisors discussed the May 4th letter and directed staff to place the item on the May 23rd, 2022 regular Board of Supervisors agenda in order to take official action on that application. So that application has been placed on the Monday, May 22nd, 2022 Board of Supervisors agenda. The last action item that they had was pertaining to Office of Community Development, if you will, was the Boxerwood Music in the Garden event application. Those of course go directly to the Board of Supervisors as an outdoor event application, an annual permit for those type of events, if you will. Other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
I will add the BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals, did not meet, and nor did the TCO, the Tourism Corridor Overlay.
Okay, thank you. You guys have any questions for him? Nope. Okay. So item number 5, Troy Plot, CVE North America, Inc., 117 Mackey's Lane, Fairfield, Virginia. We're going to continue the public hearing. It's an application for a special exception permit 4.05-MW AC Solar Project, which is a public utility in the agricultural and general uses A2 zoning district. So we are going to have staff and the applicant do their presentation.
Meantime, yes, ma'am. Don't mind, I have a brief PowerPoint presentation before I turn it over to the applicants. All right, this is a continued public hearing from last month's meeting for Troy Plot, CVE. Troy Plot is the landowner. CVE North America Incorporated is the applicant, and it's an application for a special exception permit to develop and operate a 4.05 megawatt AC solar project considered a public utility in the agricultural and general use district. A little bit about the brief property details. The plot track is outlined in magenta on the map on the screen and is identified as tax map number 51-A-24 and consists of 95.81 acres per tax records. The proposed solar project will encompass approximately 25 acres of the solar of the existing tract. The property is located in and surrounded by the A2 zoning district, again, the agricultural and general use district. The special application itself, Mr. Carson Wheatland with CVE North America Incorporated has made an application for a 4.05 megawatt AC power solar project along the north side of Mackey's Lane. Mackey's Lane is further identified as Route 714. Again, the property is owned by Mr. Plot and is an A2 zoning district. Per section 603.03-9 of the County of Rockbridge Land Development Regulations, public utilities are used by special exception in the A2 zoning district. The proposed solar site is located on approximately 26 acres land. There's existing single-family dwelling on the property and existing farm operation on the tract. The portion that is proposed for the solar project has been utilized recently as a crop field. As far as the Planning Commission meeting, of course, y'all opened at the April 13th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. The Planning Commission opened and continued public hearing. Staff has advertised accordingly. The Planning Commission postponed taking action on the application in order for the applicant to develop additional photo simulations. Further develop a stormwater management plan, further develop a material list, allow staff to explore issues associated with disposing of panels at the landfill, verify limited grading types of undercover that will be utilized for the project, and verify the level of noise for the project, review costs associated with the decommissioning plan, and explore the possibility of the proposed location. The further explore the proposed location. As far as draft conditions that could be utilized in the special exception permit, staff has developed a total of 6 of them, it appears, and if appropriate, I'll go ahead and read those. Number 1 is the development of the property, again, tax map number 51-A-24, in which the application is being made, shall be in substantial accordance with the development plan titled Reese Solar Project Special Exception Plan prepared by Christopher Consultants dated April 1st, 2022, with an engineered seal date of May 10th, 2022. Number 2, maximum height of the tilt for the solar array shall be 15 feet. Number 3, landscaping shall be maintained in healthy condition for the life of the property, or excuse me, life of the project. Furthermore, all existing trees along the eastern border of the Reese property, the plot property, excuse me, shall be preserved. Number 4, acceptance of the decommissioning agreement incorporating the decommissioning plan dated May 2, 2022, subject to Virginia licensed engineered certification of the decommissioning cost as outlined in the Code of Virginia, section 15.2-2241-2. Number 5, panel and composition. At the time of site plan review, the applicant shall provide the director with a written panel disclosure document that includes the composition of all solar panels being utilized for the facility. The applicant shall utilize crystalline, I believe, solar panel for the project. The applicant shall not utilize any panels that are shall not use any panels that are the type of known as thin film panels, including but not limiting, not utilizing panels manufactured with or coated using the Gen X chemical, the other chemical known as A-SI, the second chemical CDET. The last one would be, excuse me, second to last is CIS or CIGS. And finally, the last one is OPC panels. Those are all types of cell panels and or any other material prohibited by state or federal law for use of solar panels. Number 6, all construction and decommissioning activities shall be limited to the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday and will be prohibited on Sundays. Number 5, implementation of the project by December 31st, 2023 and project completion by June 30th, 2024. And number 6, finally, or lastly, I should say, is approval contingent upon Virginia Department of Transportation, erosion and sediment control, staff stormwater management approvals, and all Apple state and federal regulations. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the applicant for further review, details of the projects and the requested information that was included in your package. And we do have let me get your PowerPoint up here. That one there, and you can just roll. You could either use the up and down buttons or the mouse itself. Okay.
Hello. Good to see the commission again. My name is Carson Wynand. I'm the senior business developer with CVE. Here to continue the conversation on our Mackey's Lane Solar Farm. What I'll review tonight, I've put together a brief presentation. Quick introduction to CVE again for Commission Member Hennis, but then moving on to the site plan, the changes we've made since the last meeting to the site plan. Beyond the site plan, there's been a lot of other supplemental information that we've submitted, decommissioning plan, grading plan, additional visual simulations. We can review those. We'll review the project benefits again, and then happy to answer any questions. So CBE, we're an international renewable energy developer. We're technically an independent power producer, an IPP. That means we own and operate these assets for the long term. We don't sell off any assets. We're 257 employees worldwide. We have over 530 megawatts in operation and in construction worldwide. The New York office, the North American office, is located in New York City. There's about 22 of us there. We're actively growing. We've been in New York City for 5 years. We have successfully constructed a portfolio in Massachusetts. That was our very first portfolio in North America of about 35 megawatts. We have about 80 megawatts across 13 projects in New York, moving into construction later this year. And we're moving into new frontiers: Virginia, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Illinois, anywhere where the states allow us to develop, pursue these projects, where the legislation from the state level allows us to pursue these projects. So here's a snapshot of our projects. The green is in operation in Massachusetts. New York is moving to construction. And then we have those other new states: Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Mexico, that I just mentioned. Mackey's Lane Solar Project. The quick facts and figures: it's a 5.18 megawatt DC community shared solar facility, 4 megawatts AC at 117 Mackey's Lane. We're using about 25 of the 95 acres on site. We have site control, a lease agreement executed with Troy Plott and Wayne Reese. And it will benefit about 900 local homes through the shared solar program. So that is the key distinction of this solar project. It is a shared solar project. So I thought I'd take a second and explain exactly what that means before moving on into all the other details. I think it's important to understand what we're doing here. So shared solar, how does it work? It's a state program that allows homeowners to participate without having the solar panels physically on their property. So we erect a solar facility, we generate credits, we generate electricity, the utility allocates credits to our solar facility. From there, we can allocate those credits to different utility accounts within Dominion. Those are the 900 local homes benefiting, 900 different Dominion utility accounts. And those credits are just cash. It's just cash credits. And they show up as a deduction on your monthly utility bill. So for example, if your utility bill is $100, we could allocate $100 of credits. You would be due $0 to Dominion, but in turn, you would pay CVE $90. So you're effectively paying $90 for $100 of electricity. And that's where the 10% savings comes in. It's only applicable in Dominion. Our site is located within Dominion. This is a map of the utility territories in this region. That's Lexington, that's Buena Vista. The blue pin is our project site, and we are just within, our point of interconnection is just within the Dominion utility territory. As of now, this shared solar program only applies to Dominion. That said, Bark Cooperative has run their own RFP process for their own community solar project that has been constructed within the county, and the Bark Cooperative customers can subscribe to that project as well. They have the option to receive these credits through Bark through that project. The original layout on the left, the layout we presented at last meeting a month ago, the original layout was 3 rows of panels. We held a Zoom community informational session. We got some feedback about the visual impacts, and we reduced the footprint of the project area. So we eliminated that 3rd row, which was made a significant impact on the visuals because that third row was elevated about 100 feet above the other two rows. There's a slope on that western portion of the property that raises up to about 1,700 feet in elevation, and we've eliminated those panels. So now the two rows of panels, 9,594 panels, are located in the lowest point of our site. Since then, the layout has stayed more or less the same with the exception of the access road. So that was the big update since last meeting with regards to our site plan. We got in touch with Virginia Department of Transportation. And because of the speed limit on Mackey's Lane and the bend in the road there, we were advised to relocate our access road as far away from that bend in the road as possible to be compliant with their regulations. And that's what's shown here. So as you can see, previously it was right at the bend in the road, no longer right at the bend in the road, which is also beneficial. It's at a lower point. There's a lower bank. It's going to be easier to construct and get off of Mackey's Lane. The berm is not as high in that point as well. We've also relocated the inverters and the transformers. That equipment is located here. Previously, it was between the two rows. But same system size, same number of panels. We have also implemented stormwater basin. We've submitted a grading plan. I'll get to that in a second. But maintaining the landscaping buffer, nothing has changed with this. There's two different types of buffer that we're installing. One is more dense than the other. The more dense buffer will be on the southern and eastern portions of the facility, planting trees that will grow from 40 to 80 feet tall at maturity. 20-foot wide buffer. Planting hundreds of trees, small trees, large trees, evergreen trees, shrubs, all in an effort to limit the visual impacts and screen the facility. Interconnection has changed. The strategy has shifted a little bit with regards to how we're physically interconnecting to the grid because of our relocated access road. So because we have moved our access road, the utility equipment that we need to maintain has also moved with the access road. So this orange, for Commission Member Hennis, I'll take a step back. So this orange line here is the existing single phase Dominion utility pole. It stops at the Harmon property. What we are planning to do is install 2 new poles beyond that to then interconnect on our site. From there, we plan to install 2 more poles, above ground poles on our property to get us to where our utility equipment is, the CBE maintained utility equipment is by the access road. We need access to this equipment because Dominion needs access to the equipment in the event of emergency. We need access to the equipment for maintenance as well. So that's why it has to be located with the access road. From there, it goes underground. So there's 2 poles along Mackey's Lane. There's 2 poles on our property. Getting to our collection of 4, 5 above ground poles that will house equipment. And then it goes underground to our transformers and our inverters. With those pads, on concrete pads, are shown there at the end of the access road. So there's 6 existing poles on Mackey's Lane. This was a question that came up at the last meeting. What exactly will go into this? What's the scope of work to perform this work with Dominion? Unfortunately, they won't give us a scope of work at this point. We have a cost estimate to upgrade the feeder, but they're pushing off the scope of work, the construction, until later. Dominion is very measured in what they supply to developers. That said, I've provided Chris Slayton with a series of videos online from utility companies around the country of what it looks like to perform this work, to upgrade these existing poles, essentially replace them with three-phase poles. So it takes about 3 hours we see to replace a single pole. There's 6 existing poles on Mackey's Lane. That could be about 2 to 3 days of construction work with Dominion. And then there's the additional poles on our site. So maybe another couple of days for those poles. Moving on to the visual simulations, we now have 6 sets of visual simulations. This is the one from the previous meeting from the Clements property, or the Clementi property. That was a joke. The Clements property looking west. This is without any solar panels, existing conditions. This is with the 2 rows, the updated layout with no landscaping. The panels are partially visible. They're screened pretty well by the existing vegetation, which we won't touch. And then here are the panels with mature landscaping 10, 15 years from now, when the trees are fully grown. So this is the first of the new visual simulations from Donaldsburg Lane. At the end of Donaldsburg Lane, the western portion of it, looking west, you get a vantage onto the Reese property. See that this is the hill where we removed the panels, where my cursor is now. And partially visible. Partially visible. This is the visual simulation with landscaping at maturity. It's very well hidden. Visual simulation from a higher vantage point, more on a more eastern portion of Donaldsburg Lane. Here again, where my cursor is, that's the peak of the Wayne Reese property. This is higher. Currently, there's, and then here's this view with mature landscaping. It does a good job screening the facility. Here is a visual simulation from Mackey's Lane, looking north, right where our access road will be. This is our stormwater basin. This is our fence, our array, our access road. Unfortunately, what's not shown here is our above ground poles for interconnection. And that's because we're happy to supplement and revise these visual simulations. That's because we got the information that we needed to move the access road from VDOT close to this meeting. We didn't have enough time. Happy to supplement though. But as you can see, this is really well screened. This is one of the more dense buffers, southern facing buffer. This is a view from the Kent Gibson property to the south. We will not be able to fully screen from the south, just per the elevation, per the topography. Still an immense amount of beauty in that landscape. And this is even further south, a little east of the Kent Gibson property. At a high elevation. So yeah, we feel we have provided sufficient visual simulations from all angles. These photos were provided to us by Chris Slayton. So we have also submitted a materials report, which gives a breakdown of the equipment that we'll be using, the modules, the inverters, the transformers, the balance of systems, equipment, the switchboards. We tried to summarize it make it digestible. But the quick snapshot of all the equipment is that there'll be 9,594 panels. There'll be 27 inverters. There'll be 2 transformers. The modules don't emit any noise. The inverters emit less than 69 decibels for a single inverter at 1 meter away. We think that this will not be a discernible amount of noise for any of the neighbors, given the hundreds of feet away they are from this equipment. The transformers, there's only 2. They emit a noise of 62 decibels at 1 meter. Panels will be a maximum height of 9 feet. So they're trackers. They face east in the morning, west in the afternoon. They're motorized. They move throughout the day, tracking the sun. You get additional production with that racking. In the morning, in the afternoon, they're at a max tilt of 52 degrees. So that the highest peak in the mornings and afternoon will be 9 feet high. At noon, when they're facing flat, it's about 6 feet high. 14 feet of spacing between each row, which will be worth noting that it will be pollinator-friendly vegetation, a bed of grasses and flowers, very low impact. Module composition, I brought this up last time. I don't need to repeat myself too much, but there are no hazardous materials with this equipment, with the exception of less than 1% of the module is made up of lead encased within the glass. There should be no exposure to any hazard materials on site. Decommissioning plan. So we provided a plan previously with a cost estimate. This month we have provided without a cost estimate, excuse me, with a generalized cost estimate. This month we've provided a specific cost estimate in 2022 dollars. So to remove all the panels, pull the racking, pull the posts, pull the fencing, remove the concrete pads, disassemble the wiring, remove the inverters, excavate, dig up the access road, restore the soils. All of that comes to $158,000. This cost estimate was provided to us by Tectonic Engineering. They're a national civil engineering firm. And this is a dollar amount that is consistent with what we've seen in Rockbridge County on the other solar projects, but also our projects in New York and Massachusetts. This $150,000 number is right what we expected. So we will record a bond or a cash agreement as surety with the county to make sure the funds are in place. And we're open, it's worth noting, to including some sort of escalator on that figure so it doesn't get eaten away at inflation over time. The bond value could increase 2% or so annually to make sure the funds are there in year 30, 35. We've also submitted, so previously we had a stormwater basin. We had stormwater management practices already on our site plan. We've tweaked the basin to accommodate the access road. It's now a little bit longer, covers more of the frontage of Mackey's Lane. And we've also submitted a grading plan, how we will grade the site to ensure that all the water flows into this basin. Good news is that the natural topography of the site does flow from north to south, west to east into this basin. But we will do additional grading to make sure that all the water is captured by this basin. These stormwater management practices are compliant with the new DEQ requirements. Basically, we are in our stormwater management model, we are now considering modules, the panels, to be impervious. So that means we have to take into consideration additional water runoff, higher velocity of water that needs to be captured now on site. Also worth noting is that there shouldn't be a need for any basins to the north. I know this came up in the previous meeting, but given how we're grading the site, given the natural topography of the site, there's no need for a basin to the north. The north is sort of the highest point, and the south is the lowest point. We do have on our grading plan a diversion ditch, a grass line diversion ditch that should catch any water that does fall off to the north and route it on down to the stormwater basin. Construction timeline. Construction should take about 6 months. This was a piece of information that we didn't include last month. So month 1 is mobilization, it's site clearing, it's establishing the access road. Months 2 through 5 are where we install the racking, the modules, we lay down the concrete pads for the transformers and the inverters. We run the wiring, we install the landscaping. All that's happening in months 2 through 5. Month 6, demobilization. Listed here are the number of vehicles. So there will be some traffic up and down Mackey's Lane during these 6 months. It's not too burdensome in months 1 and 6, but worth noting that there could be 20 to 30 personal during months 2 through 5, peak construction months, 20 to 30 personal worker vehicles per day. There will be material deliveries. Material deliveries are concrete, landscaping. Equipment deliveries are obviously equipment, racking, inverters, modules. So there'll be 3 to 4 trucks per day for materials, 1 to 2 trucks per day for equipment. We've also provided Chris Sladen a list of special exception conditions. So we're willing to work with the county. We're willing to make this as accommodating to the neighborhood as possible. The key conditions that we have submitted: number 1, contribution for public improvement, also known as a revenue share. We're willing to execute, we would like to execute some sort of revenue share, ongoing revenue agreement with the county. Number 2, commitment to securing local subscribers. So with this shared solar program, we can sign up anybody within Dominion. Doesn't have to be Rockbridge County, but we will make a commitment to securing local customers, local subscribers to this facility within Rockbridge County. We'll start closest to the site and move out. We secure customers through traditional marketing methods, online advertising, phone calls, mailers, newspaper ads, things like that. Decommissioning plan, we've already mentioned, happy to provide a decommissioning plan and put up a bond for the cost estimate. We will disclose the module specification and composition, basically what's in our materials report. We're happy to get that reviewed by the county, get that signed off, all of our equipment, to make sure there's nothing that brought hazard to the site. So limited construction hours, Chris Sladen mentioned this, something like Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're happy to limit our construction hours to that window. And then I think, importantly, this last point, a tiered panel disposal approach. I know this came up, this was a big discussion point at the last meeting. We've looked into it, and we're happy to commit to a tiered panel disposal approach. That means, first, trying to donate the equipment if possible. There are a handful of nonprofit organizations that do take end-of-life solar equipment and try to repurpose it. And that would be our preference. So it would avoid the landfill, we wouldn't have to pay to recycle, and it would get reused elsewhere in the world. One of those nonprofit organizations is called Good Son, and we've spoken to them extensively since last month. If we are not able to donate, we will recycle. We will try to recycle. Recycling today, as it currently stands, is an expensive proposition. It would be about $250,000 to recycle the 10,000 panels on site. And if we cannot donate or recycle, then our last option would be to dispose of them in the landfill. Project benefits. So I've condensed the project benefits to one slide. in terms of numbers. So project benefits by the numbers. The key benefit here are the environmental impacts. This is why the legislation was passed at a state level. The amount of carbon dioxide that's being avoided from the utility grid is tremendous. 13 million pounds of carbon dioxide avoided by Dominion annually. This is equivalent to planting 280,000 trees. It's also an equivalent amount of carbon equal to driving 15 million miles in a passenger car, to try to give you some point of reference there. $2.8 million in energy savings for the 900 local customers. This is taking into consideration the 10% discount on their energy costs every month for the next 25 years. $181,000 in tax revenue on the solar facility itself. This is coming from the revenue share over 25 years, $1,400 per megawatt AC. We're open to discussing a different amount if the county would like. We've also tried to estimate what the increased land tax will be. So the land will be reassessed. It'll have a different classification. The taxes due on the underlying land will increase. This is assuming a $5,000 per year increase in land taxes over 25 years. There'd be $125,000 in additional tax revenue to the county on the land. I think to get a more specific number would come later when we have conversations with the assessor. But that's what we're estimating. And then finally, $9,500 donated to a local nonprofit organization. This is something we do on every project, $1 per panel donated to a local agency. Typically an environmental agency where they can potentially host educational days for local school children or restore a preserve, restore a park, things like that. So it's also worth noting that we believe this project is compliant with the zoning code. So first of all, solar projects have been approved within the A2 district in Rockbridge County. But in comparison to the permitted uses by right within the A2 district, this is a less impactful use. So by right within the A2 district, the uses are any uses that benefit agricultural industry or business other than an abattoir. So that could mean livestock containment facilities. That could mean a fruit cannery. It could be up to 35 feet tall. It could be an ugly warehouse. It could emit smell, dust, noise, increased traffic, additional traffic compared to the solar facility. Once the solar facility is operational, there'll be about 2 vehicle trips per month. You could also, by right, within this A2 district, develop this site into a small residential subdivision. So you would be permitted to build up to 8 single-family dwellings, up to 45 feet tall. That would require additional county services such as water, sewer installation, additional kids in the school district, additional strain on emergency services, additional visual impacts. Once you go with one of these uses, you are no longer returning it to agricultural land as well. So that's one of the major benefits with a solar farm, is that the agricultural land underneath is, one, improving its yield over time as it's not being used, but two, once it's decommissioned, can be restored very easily, very quickly back to an agricultural use. And that aligns with the comprehensive plan of Rockbridge County. Solar facilities have been approved in rural planning areas. The rural planning areas within the comprehensive plan promote low impact development. They don't want small residential uses. They don't want a livestock containment facility. Solar is in compliance, in accordance with rural planning areas within the comprehensive plan. It's a lower overall impact to this agricultural land. Yep. Furthermore, there's economic goals within the comprehensive plan, encourage development that demonstrates an economic or social benefit to the area. I've already captured those economic benefits. We're promoting the use of clean energy in the county. We're transferring $2.8 million in energy savings to 900 local Dominion customers. We're providing substantial tax benefits to the county, all without an increase in the cost of services on the county for this specific property. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have any questions for him before he sits back down, or do you want to listen to public comment first? Okay, okay, sure. So we will get ready to open the public hearing. I think commission wants to hear the public and then come up with a list of questions for you.
We're getting ready to open the public hearing.
Yeah. Okay.
First on the list is Mr. Kent Gibson.
As a reminder, when you come up, if you don't mind making sure you speak into the microphone, state your name, magisterial district, and remember that we're going to hold these to 3 minutes. We have lots of people that we want to hear. If somebody has already made the comments that you were going to make, you're welcome to still come up. You know, if you don't mind, though, kind of keep it brief. We'd like to have new information, but certainly you're welcome. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you for your time tonight. I'm Kent Gibson. We live across the street from the proposed site. And they say they can't hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we live across the street. Chris is trying to pull up the visual on what our property is going to see. And the impact is significant. It's finally good to hear CVE acknowledging the impact on traffic, acknowledging some of these impacts. But I spoke with a certified appraiser in Virginia with a lot of experience, 30 years of experience in Rockbridge. And that issue is going to cause us a drastic property decrease. The appraiser says up to 40% on our property values. We've got farmland, 2 houses and 2 barns. So we're looking at a $400,000 property value drop for our properties and my family. That's a huge impact. And with the studies, if you look at those and the impact on real estate values, then just the closest properties, that's a $1.2 million drop, just applying a 10% across the board for those local properties. That doesn't even include everybody down Mackey's Lane. And so that's $8,600 in property tax revenue that's lost to the city or the county, I'm sorry. So we're not opposed to the projects and the solar power plants. There's just plenty of better places to put them. This power goes 8 miles into town over to the intersection of 64 and 81, basically. There's hundreds of acres right there that could be used for these projects. There's even right at Wallachman and 11, between 11 and 81, there's lots of open space there that could be used right next to the substation in Fairfield. So completely different than the Alexander Farm project, where they're using 11 as a buffer, 81 as a buffer, their own house as a buffer. So this is just a completely different project than any of the other ones in the county. If this is approved, and in light of what's already been approved in the county, there's going to be no reasonable and rational basis to deny any projects anywhere. We've got a 2-acre parcel that's been used as a solar panel power plant. And then we've got this one off a small country road. So basically anywhere in the county that's within 8 miles of a substation with 2 acres could theoretically have one of these put on it. And that's not what we want to see in our county. I hope you all had a chance to review these written submissions before the last hearing and this one, because those detail how this actually doesn't comply with the comprehensive plan in any fashion. And it certainly doesn't comply with the requirements for a special exception. Impact on traffic is huge. We don't need it in the county. Even according to the comprehensive plan, we have enough electricity. There's going to be an immense reduction in property values, and it's going to completely change the character and nature of Spring Valley. We live in an agricultural area. We know what agricultural uses are, and this is not one of them. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Next is Ann Russick.
This thing starts on its own.
resets.
He's resetting it right now.
My name is Ann Russick. I'm from the Buffalo District. And the reason I'm here is even though I don't live near Mackey's Lane, I have a farm and I live in a rural area. And I think it's important for those of us in the rest of the county to come forward and say that why we're against this solar array. I realize that there's two. I talked to Chris in the past, had some questions and things, and he assured me that special exceptions was the best way to go because you can do them individually. So putting my faith in that process, then I think individually, then we have to deny this one because it needs maximum scrutiny and study. I'm going to be kind of rambling here within my time frame only because I had one prepared speech or whatever comments, and then after hearing the presentation from the gentleman, now I have many questions. But in particular, I think that at the very least, I've done some limited research, and you could actually just put a moratorium on solar arrays for the time being, which would buy you time and buy the county time. And I think it's something that we all need because it's a new concept. It's a new age. It's a new idea. Why does Rockbridge County have to be the guinea pigs? Obviously, I think back to the days of when we had satellite discs for television sets and remember how huge they were and monstrous, but look what technology did and how it perfected it and how small they are now. And now it's all underground. I think solar is the same thing. This is new technology and it's going to get better. Why do we have to be the guinea pigs? We don't have to be. We can sit this one out. When you talk about financially, this is where it really breaks down to dollars and cents to me. In the News Gazette, a few weeks ago, they printed that it'll be a savings for the subscribers of $3,750 for 25 years. I'm no mathematician, and believe me, I didn't do well in school. But when you break that down, that breaks down to for each subscriber, they're going to save $150 a year. $150 breaks down to $12.50 a month. $12.50 a month breaks down to 45 cents a day. So are we willing to sell off or trade our $1 million vistas and our $1 million views, which our real estate constantly capitalizes on, for 45 cents a day or even $150 a year? You know, it just seems to me a ludicrous trade-off. When you really get into the whole solar concept, it's a hot mess. You know, the solar was invented in the United States up in New Jersey at Bell Labs, but then for some crazy reason, we never followed through with manufacturing the panels. So now all the panels have to come from overseas. And this, to me, there's just a whole lot of litigation that's going to be coming up that has to get straightened out. And I'm out of time now, but I really think you should just put a moratorium on it.
Thank you, Ms. Russick.
Next up is Phil Bailey.
Members of the Planning Commission, thank you for allowing me time to address the commission tonight. My name is Philip Bailey. I live on Mackey's Lane near the proposed solar panel project. During my undergraduate studies at Washington and Lee University back in the 1970s, I completed an archaeological research paper on the native Indians of Rockbridge County. The Indian name for the area we now know as Rockbridge County means beautiful garden. Truly, all of us who have made our homes in this county know it as a beautiful place in which to live. We have all benefited from the tranquility and scenic richness this county provides. In the days of advancing technology, cell tower multiplication, and faster and bigger highways, what a thrill it is to breathe fresh air, look out on picturesque vistas, and drink in the sublime quiet that surrounds us. No doubt all of us have visited Richmond, Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, Virginia Beach, with their traffic jams, miles of asphalt, concrete, and crowded shopping centers. How glad each of us has been to travel home to the scenic landscape Rockbridge County has to offer, our beautiful garden. We must act to protect this rich treasure of splendor. The attractiveness of Rockbridge County is a valuable resource of which we are the custodians. We are responsible to protect this beautiful garden. By allowing acres and acres of wire, glass, toxic metal onto quality farmland, we may be creating a very difficult problem for future generations with which to deal. Let us be respectful to future generations by not creating difficult problems for them to fix. Also, if the solar panel project is approved, we would be preventing our children, grandchildren, and beyond from the benefit of seeing the beauty of this county and of the Mackey Lane Farm in particular. During the years when Al Mackey owned the Mackey's Lane Farm, I took many hikes on that farmland. Truly, the farm is pleasing and delightful. It's a delightful piece of property. To picture in my mind acres of metal, wires, and glass covering the pristine soil and grass is very disturbing. We must not rob future generations of the benefit we have enjoyed in gazing upon this beautiful garden. Finally, in closing, I would like to say that context is very important. When you take a shower, you go in the privacy of your own bathroom. A shower in your bathroom is appropriate. However, you do not take a shower standing on downtown Main Street. Scrubbing at home is fine, but washing outside of grand furniture is not. For a Rockbridge County farmer to place his cows out in the median strip of Route 81 or to plant his crops on top of the Rockbridge County Courthouse would not make sense. It would be out of context. The cows and crops must go. I respectfully ask that you do not support the solar panel project. Let us keep our garden beautiful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Suzanne McTaggart, and next up is Patricia Thomas after Ms. McTaggart.
Good evening. Let's talk science. I have science. I have good news too. According to the latest IOPCC, the International Organization, let me get I should stick to my text. According to the International Panel on Climate Change, yes, they have immediate dramatic action is required to help save our planet. And I think, I'm not here to address property values or farmers' rights, because I tried that back when they were talking about putting a solar field in Rockbridge, Bass, and it didn't work. I'm getting a solar field on the neighbor's land, and I'm not crazy about it, but I like my neighbor, and I'm, going to stay on good side of the fence with him. But the news is that we actually here in Rockbridge County can do more for the planet and our children and the grandchildren by not further developing the land. I'm going to be referring to 3 articles here. One is based on the International Nature Conservancy report. And they went through and they are doing this internationally, and Rockbridge County and Botetourt County and several other counties in Virginia and West Virginia have been rated in the highest classification for resiliency in the face of continued climate change. And the recommendation is not to develop on this land, because this is the land they're hoping that will survive so that the animals and trees and other critters can make a way, travel through the most difficult parts and get to safer parts. This is science. The IOCC report specifically addresses that there's not a silver bullet that's going to change all of this. It's going to require a lot of different creativity and science in individual areas. And one of the things they talk about, they provide roadmaps for like cities or for utilities, but they do for rural areas too. And what they say is really quite interesting. And this is a quote. In fact, protecting nature, especially forests and other carbon-rich land, is essential. Healthy forest, wetlands, and undisturbed prairies can put billions of tons of carbon out, can pull billions of tons of carbon out of the atmosphere each year, delivering as much climate benefit as 2 million windmills. This is from the international report. Let's not jump on the wrong hay wagon because utility developers are scouring our area, anxious to acquire signed contracts that they'll sell for a profit to another utility developer. I think we should educate ourselves on what's truly will make a difference for our grandchildren and the planet. And I too was going to ask for a moratorium. Recently, the federal government's changed the rules again that yes, you really should be considering the total impact of all the projects and not just the individual project. And that's what keeps happening here. We're up to 4 or 5 areas now that it's been divide and conquer because nobody's coming except that it hits their back door. And that's I think we really ought to listen to the science. We can make a big difference by not developing Rockbridge County, but we do have to conserve it. And that means changing farmer practices, which is Farm Bureau's already said they're working on, and they'd like to see a study on land use as well. And not further developing the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McTaggart. Appreciate that.
Patricia Thomas, followed by Ted Duke.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Patricia Thomas, the South River Fire District. My name is Patricia Thomas. My husband Paul and I decided to relocate from Texas to be closer to our children and our grandchildren. We considered numerous regions across various states, but decided on Rockbridge County after experiencing the tranquil scenery and warm welcome from the residents here. In 2018, we purchased a parcel of land on Donaldsburg Lane here in Fairfield and started planning our dream home. We sold our property in Texas in 2020, and then in 2021, we began the arduous process of building a home during the pandemic. Due to supply chain issues and labor shortages, we experienced countless delays and skyrocketing costs. And despite these setbacks, we pressed on with building because we were ready to trade city life for country living. We had fallen in love with the people here, and we look forward to the peace and calm our new home would provide. When we heard about this proposed solar power plant, we were absolutely heartbroken. Had we known that a solar array would be proposed in this location, we would have never selected the property that we did. I would never wish the roller coaster ride we have endured on anyone, but if the county approves the application, it will become common. Nearly any property in Rockbridge will be fair game for out-of-state power conglomerates to prey upon. And people like us who made a deliberate plan to leave the city will find themselves neighbors to a power plant. The county must guarantee stability in land use, or we will all pay the price. Reduced property values will hurt families. Lower tax revenue will hurt the county, and local industries will suffer from fewer people living and building here. The stunning landscape of Rockbridge County has attracted countless residents who have invested not only their money, but their lives in this community. Allowing solar power plants to spring up across Rockbridge County will permanently change its character and eliminate its allure for people like us who long to surround themselves in natural beauty. Prayerfully, I ask the members of the commission to see the wisdom in preserving the irreplaceable landscape of our community. Please vote against this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ted
Mr.
Duke,
Duke.
followed by Tom Kirby.
I assure you, I'm not going to read all this paper. First, I have a question. You don't have to answer it. Why do we have zoning? We have zoning to provide for orderly growth in accordance with the Rockbridge County Comprehensive Plan. A few goals in the plan. Enhance and protect and keep it the way it is. Look it up. Go back and look at it. To encourage long-range farmland and forest conservation. It's all in here. It's in the plan. When special exceptions are made to zoning regulations, it should not change the character of the area. Once an exception is made, it becomes a given. I'll give you an example, event center. Anybody that Rockbridge County that wants an event center, you have to give it to them. You've given it to everyone else. How are you going to say no? It's not in the code. It doesn't say you can have event centers. And I'm not saying that's bad if it doesn't hurt anything. Kennels, you got to give them a kennel. You've given it to anybody that wants one. How are you going to say no? If you say yes to this solar array, there's going to be solar arrays all over the place and there won't be any farmland left. It's time to stop. And I think the suggestion that perhaps we ought to take a moratorium, and if you really want solar arrays, if that's the way to go, then set up a zone someplace. I think it's called utilities. Set up a utility zone and put them all there. They don't need to be out here in farmland. Put them someplace in an industrial area, tie them all together.
Thank you. Mr. Deep. Kirby?
Mr. Tom Kirby, followed by Irma Kirby.
Good evening, members of the Planning Committee, friends, neighbors. My name is Tom Kirby. I live at 159 Donaldsburg Lane, Donaldsburg, Maryland. I've always, what did I say?
Maryland. Donaldsburg, Maryland.
And I've been here 15 years. I come to you tonight again pleading that you not change this agricultural zoning to industrial. This is really a binary choice. The land in question is either agricultural or it is not. Farming has been a part of our culture since the colonial period. When we purchased our property and home in 2007 and retired here from Southern Maryland, we knew we had found the place where we wanted to enjoy our remaining years. We purchased our home because of the lovely countryside, and there is no sin in wanting to live in the midst of a beautiful setting. At no time did we request that a solar array with thousands of panels be installed on our rolling hills. To further illustrate this, I brought with me tonight a current magazine. Promise I won't read from it, but this is in one of our local papers, and it's a listing of properties. Comes out about every 3 weeks. Nowhere could I find a property in here that was listed as being nestled near a solar array with many thousands of glass panels, steelworks, new roads, and power lines. Instead, what I found are numerous ads beginning with the words magnificent rural setting, gorgeous views, spectacular sunsets. Should any of us face the need to put our property on the market, we would immediately find the value reduced by tens of thousands of dollars, according to information related to impending legislation against solar arrays in North Carolina. These are searchable on the internet. CBE is putting its profits far above our wishes for a stable community. Their focus is not upon what is best for Rockbridge County. Why this rush towards exploitation? Ask Warren Buffett. His answer was given in one statement. It's the tax benefits. At the very least, please consider the formation of a citizens advisory group tasked in assisting the planning committee to establish guidelines regarding future procedures, avoiding precedent-setting piecemeal solutions. Let's work together and get this right and do it the last time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Irma Kirby, followed by Jennifer Carlucci.
My name's Irma Kirby. We live on Donaldsburg Lane, just to the south and east of the planned array. We left St. Mary's County, Maryland to come here because we wanted to be in an agricultural area. And I'm just so sad to see farmland being taken and used like this. It's just not necessary. Zoning obviously doesn't have any meaning and doesn't offer any protection if it can be changed so easily to do this to us. Much of the land in these hills and mountains consist of a substrate of karst. And I haven't heard anybody address that, either the last meeting or this one. To me, it's absolutely paramount that we protect the watershed and the aquifer, because the karst areas, which I think 40% of Rockbridge County is karst. And that's where we see our sinkholes. And the problem is when we just had a tornado in Fairfield on Friday. It touched down, we heard it go by on 11. And apparently, because I looked in the paper today and I could see the track of it. But if something like that were to happen with all this glass with lead, I don't care what the percentage of lead is very bad. And we don't want that in the ground. But if something were to happen, or when it's decommissioned, or if there's breakage, things of that nature, we just don't want that in the ground. You'd never be able to use that ground again. I know very well what happened in West Virginia, because when they strip mined everything and the hills were just torn apart, they did come back many years later to repair it, but it was just a horrible job. And I don't think that we need a lot of solar arrays. Also, the technology, I'm sure, for solar panels isn't even close to where it could be. Miniaturization is what I'm hoping for. I think solar is great, but this project is not for us. It just isn't.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jennifer Carlucci, followed by Steve Cator.
Good evening. Good evening, gentlemen, and Coach Hennis.
Hello.
It's good to see you up there. My name is Jennifer Carlucci. I'm from the South River District. My family and I live at 200 Donaldsburg Lane in Fairfield, Virginia, in our beautiful, brand new, modern farmhouse built by our good friend, Danny Groh, who I'm sure some of you might know. It is a refuge and a place of peace, surrounded by God's beautiful creation. We were so enamored by this part of the county, we also bought additional acreage right behind our house. And that leads back through the woods, right on the border of where the arrays are. Needless to say, we have invested a great deal in this property in a very short time, only to find out not too long ago that our dreams of having the sweeping, glorious views our town is known for could be taken away by a company who cannot even guarantee they will still be in business in a few years, which was stated at the last meeting. You can watch it on your laptops and find the quote. We moved to this area knowing that our county is dedicated to its rich history, natural wonders, agriculture, small businesses, and education. I believe that all the people who live in Fairfield are very much in support of green energy, although just how green is solar panel energy, that has been yet to be determined. There are plenty of accredited scientists who would beg to differ. Nonetheless, I am confident that placing 9,500 solar panels that comes right up to our wooded land, not to mention the sea of black glaring panels on a beautiful hillside, obstructing the entire reason why so many of us have moved to this area, is not okay. It's not okay. Had we known that this plan was in the works, my husband and I never would have built a house here a year ago. Never. Selling our house will be a nightmare, as we are the house closest to this future monstrosity. The value of our house is guaranteed to drop when it comes time for us to sell it, hoping and praying that this is not the case, and our county's decision makers will do the right and logical thing. Move the panels to isolated areas, or take the advice of some of these amazing people behind me with great solutions. Let's not forget the fact that our town uses Bark Electric, and we will not benefit at all from any solar panel energy, as it will be used by Dominion-powered customers. And as for the small amount of money that might be given to the residents of Fairfield, you can keep our $5.
Thank you.
Steve Cator, followed by Fred Ryan.
Hi, I'm Steve Cater. I live on Morning Star Trail across the street from the proposed project. Thanks for the privilege. I ask you to recommend denial of this application. It despoils prime landscape and gives the county very little in return. Let me correct some misinformation. First of all, I and my neighbors have been accused of being anti-green energy. That's not true. I drive a hybrid. I'm an engineer and a physician. I designed my house to be very energy efficient. And I understand the problem of rising greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. But part of the solution is preserving our carbon sinks, the sequestration that we get from farmland, from trees. And tearing down a bunch of them for this project is not going to help very much. Let me correct something in your public notices about the location of the project. They say it's at the corner of Highway 11 and Mackey's Lane. It is not. I've had people come up to me and say, yeah, I heard about that project. It's going to be right there at the corner, right? That looks like a great place for a solar farm. Well, it is. It's flat, it's low, there's very few houses around, but that's not where it's going. So please correct your public notices to say it's a half a mile from that intersection down the hill on Mackey's Lane. That farmland, they say they're going to restore it 100%. That's not going to happen. They're going to excavate and grade 33 acres. That topsoil is going to be gone. There's no way they can restore that to its original state. In addition to the herbicides and the possible toxic things that will leach out of the equipment in the ground, it's going to cost a lot more than they're estimating to rehabilitate it, if it even can be rehabilitated. Our county will not get any jobs from this. It's a fact. They've never even tempted you to think that. As far as tax benefits, that's pretty questionable. I think with the loss of property values, our tax base is likely to drop instead of go up. At the end of the power plant's 20 to 30-year lifespan, the equipment's going to go into our landfill. That was their tier 3 approach, but they already admitted it's going to cost, twice as much as what they planned for restoration to recycle them. Where else are they going to go? They're going to go in a landfill, and they're going to go in the nearest one unless you stop them. So regarding the energy production from this array, it's going to be more like 400 homes or less, not 900 homes. You look at the total amount of energy used in the United States divided by the number of people, and you calculate how much actual kilowatt hours are going to come out of this, it's not going to power 900 homes. So the bottom line is, if we don't say no to this poorly conceived and destructive project, which one will we say no to? There's dozens, if not hundreds of people around the country, around the world wanting to invest in solar in our county, and we won't be able to say no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fred Ryan, followed by Tim Jackson.
Fred Ryan, that's me. I live at 40 Woodland Hill Lane, right on the border of this. I've been there since 1988, and I live in the South River District. And I just got something to read. It won't take the full time. I've been a resident of this Mackey Lane neighborhood since '88. I'm not a foe of solar power. I just don't want this solar operation put in my backyard, nor would anyone else. We are residents, taxpayers, voters of this county. Please don't allow some ambitious and clever group, whether from France, China, or Timbuktu, to swoop into our neighborhood to sell their product or make their profit at the expense of changing our landscape while decreasing the value of our properties. In other words, regardless of how one feels about solar energy, no one here wants this facility to sit in their neighborhood. Was our land offered at such a cheap price that those others jumped on it regardless of our concerns? If our neighborhood represents someone's early efforts for locating the solar operation, may I say they should look further? Pay the price for a better location, further from our residential and agricultural properties. In my mind, it's akin to putting your washing machine in your living room. It's the wrong place. This project no doubt has benefits, but golly, at the expense of being mislocated? I say not. I say not. And I don't think anybody here would want to live beside or near this operation. And the person that spoke about early on in solar energy, that's where we are today. In time, it'll get better and smaller. And it's like putting up these giant satellite dishes that we had for TV years ago. I had one, 9-foot diameter. This first dish, I had 9 foot. I can't even reach that far. Not so today. So why should we put something that's going to change in an agricultural area? We shouldn't. Common sense says we shouldn't. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Tim Jackson, followed by Cynthia Broomer Cater.
Hello, my name's Tim Jackson, and I live on Woodland Hill Lane as well, which is right next to Mackey's Lane. A lot of the stuff I was going to say has already been said. I want to bring up the point about cleaning these panels. They need to be cleaned to be efficient. I've got them on top of my RV. They have to be cleaned or they don't work good. Where's that waste going to go? It's going to soak into the ground, right into the water table. Don't change the zoning. Once you do it once, what's going to be next? Starbucks, Waffle House. You can't change to one person and not the next. Common sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, can you bring up your projection of the plan with the water basin, please?
Yes, ma'am. If you want to go ahead and get started.
Okay. Hi, I'm Cynthia Bromley Cater. I bought 66 acres, 68 acres, including the part that I sold to my son and his family, right across from this farm and the solar panels. So I'm asking Chris to bring up the plan because after the last meeting, Mr. Lucas said, you've got to go back and look at ponding basins to do water management. So if you look at that, it's really important to realize they're going to do a lot of cuts in the land. Right now, it's a nice slope. You've been there, you know, you've walked it. So they're going to cut that off and drag all that land away or move it around. Around the sides of that, they're planning to put some sort of way to direct what Mr. Winans called high velocity water around the north and the south and the east to go into this ponding basin. So if you look at that ponding basin is going to actually drain the water for all of that whole field, not just the 25 acres because it's on a slope, number one. Number two, there is only one orifice that comes out of that ponding basin, just one. So if that orifice gets clogged, what happens to that water? It backs up into the solar area, number one. Number two, I don't know how to do this.
It's over there, yeah. Mhm.
So the outlet is right here. That's one culvert that goes under Mackey's Lane. Where does that go? Right now, the way the land is, that water flows down that hill and into my field and floods my field and goes into Sheep Creek. If that orifice gets locked up, where's that water going to go? It's going to go right into my field and drown my hay. So it therefore decreases my crop. The other problem that I see is that's a huge ponding basin. So I called the DEQ and said, what happens to 25-acre ponding basins that has to drain this? Because we know that it's impervious. And they said, we have to go out and look at it for contamination issues. Okay, well, there's one thing that is going to contaminate: mosquitoes. There's going to be a ton of mosquitoes. And who's going to take care of the mosquito population that carries West Nile virus? Who's going to take care of the people that get West Nile virus? from a ponding basin that large. I also want to address the noise issue. They talked about the decibels.
I'm sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
Take your little
I had a lot.
meter and go around. It's the same decibels as going up to I-81 and 712. Same decibels. So we are inviting I-81 into our valley.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jan Hall, followed by Leanne Gibson.
Well, thanks for this time. I appreciate it very much. I don't have much to say. Other people have more eloquently and with much more knowledge than I have on this program, and they have come up with some great ideas. You've all seen the movie God's Little Acre. Well, we live in God's good little 2 acres, and my backyard backs up to the northwest corner of this thing. And by the way, the maps and pictures are all beneficial to their proposal. Looking at them, and I've drawn maps, it's pretty difficult to figure out what's going on. But this is a big mistake, putting it in here, this beautiful country. Why on an agriculture? There are plenty of commercial and industrial areas that this could be put into. And it's just crazy to try to lure that beautiful farmland and the scene and the whole agriculture is so beautiful. We moved here 2005 from Southern California, and believe me, this is a little heaven here. Don't let them ruin it. They can do this somewhere else. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Good evening, Leanne Gibson, South River District. I would just like to ask members of the commission a question. Have your questions been answered? At the end of last month's meeting, there were some very specific questions brought up, and CVE has addressed some of those with regard to replacement of the poles. There has been some addressing of the traffic issues. But I want you to think, are you convinced that this international company is invested in our community based on their answers to your specific questions that they have had a month to work on? First of all, are you convinced that the decommissioning estimates provided by CVE are anywhere in the neighborhood of what will be necessary to tear down this solar project in 3 decades? I looked at some news about inflation this morning. It is not going in a positive direction for any of us. So is the county willing to be put on the hook for cleaning up this mess, 3-4 decades from now? I also noticed that CVE had to change its plans yet again because apparently they needed to have VDOT tell them that the originally planned driveway went through a 5-foot embankment. Now, any of us who live off of Mackey's Lane or near Mackey's Lane could have told you that. It kind of makes me wonder if they had showed up to look at the site at all to begin with. VDOT also apparently had to tell them, even though we told them at their last meeting, about the treacherous curve that's right there. Many of you, if not all, I'm sure have driven down Mackey's Lane and perhaps had the privilege of driving next to a giant dump truck. They talked extensively about some of the traffic that will be coming down. I don't know that in the years that we have lived on the farm that I have passed a semi yet. And I certainly am hoping that we do not live to see that day. Disposal, recycling and donation were mentioned as kind of iffy options, but landfill was still on the list and I did not hear any alternate landfill site. So I can only assume that means that they mean Rockbridge County landfill. And even if they move to some sort of a tiered system, what that reads to me is just that means they're going to take down the panels more slowly so the lead leaks into the landfill more slowly. Finally, I wanted to touch on this revenue agreement, which just to me seems rather dubious in nature, exactly what the nature of this is, but I know for a fact it does not begin to cover the costs that the county will endure. certainly with the loss of property values, and certainly it doesn't do a thing for the individual property owners. So I ask that the commission will listen to the community who has spoken with one voice tonight to oppose and reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's everyone signed up to speak, but we'll recognize anyone in the audience now. Absolutely. Come on up. If you could state your name and magisterial district.
Good evening. Hello, I'm Rebecca Smith. I also live in South River District on Donaldsburg Lane. I have 3 questions for CVE. I want to know what their weed control plan is going to be. Because all of us in this area depend on well water. And I don't particularly want pesticides seeping into the water table that I'm dependent on. Another thing is, I'm also not a math wizard, but I'm kind of wondering if they eliminated one row of those solar panels, but the number is still at 9,500. I'm not sure how that worked out. And another thing is, I'd like CVE to tell us how many millions of dollars in tax credits they're going to be getting off the backs of us here in Rockbridge County. I'm sure Mr. Plott is going to be also getting substantial tax credits as opposed to what he would be getting for his farmland. But it's not benefiting Rockbridge County. We get nothing out of this. If it's $10 off my electric bill every month, I'm more than happy to pay that. I don't even have Dominion. I have Bark. So I won't be benefiting at all. So I'd like to have those questions addressed before a big decision is made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. I'll be quick here. A lot of the stuff I wanted to say has been covered.
Can you give us your name and
Oh, I'm
magisterial
sorry,
district?
Ed
That's okay.
Woodward, 400 Mackey's Lane.
Okay.
Like to give you all a homework assignment. I've tried it. I can't come up with one. Divide a piece of paper in half, come up with the benefits for the residents of Fairfield and the disadvantages. I can't come up with one advantage. I've tried. I can't come up with one. The gentleman who presented the information on the company said he was going to reiterate the advantages to us. He didn't come up with one. I had my pen out. He didn't come up with one. We have the phrase shared solar projects. He defines it as the enjoyment and the benefit of the solar power without having the physical panel placed on your property. So instead of a couple of panels on your house, how about 9,000 across the street? But he doesn't say, but you can't use that either. Could you imagine if I came to you and said, I'd like to put up a community center? I'm going to give you a pool. We're going to have a rec center. We're going to have all kinds of stuff. And you said, yeah, I'm interested. Tell me more. Well, the more is you can't use it. We just want to offer it to you. I can't come up with the answer of why Fairfield. The only thing I can think of is this is a big company. It has resources, but so do we. They're sitting behind me and there's a lot more out there. We have a lot of resources and they're called citizens. We also have a great board of supervisors, a planning commission there to look out for our well-being. They can bring all the resources they want to it. They haven't seen half the resources we have, and we need your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Gail Bailey. I'm South River District. I live on Mackey's Lane, where we have lived since 2000. We moved here to this beautiful rural area, and our children grew up in the house that we now live in. 2 of my sons are here tonight, and we are definitely opposing this project and ask that you would please consider protecting the beautiful farmland in Mackey's Lane. We have taken many occasions to hike through those fields when our children were younger, and now we have grandchildren coming in, and I just would love to see this preserved. So please oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Bailey. I live on Mackey's Lane. I wanted to bring up on one of the slides, it had where the inverters produce 62 decibels at 1 meter. I'm an engineer and I calculated at 100 meters, that's 22 decibels. I think the Caters live right across the street from that. And from their yard at 100 meters, 22 decibels is a pretty annoying sound in my opinion. Just to give you some reference, the average car horn is 100 decibels. So it's about a quarter of that at 100 meters, just to give you some perspective. That's like a pretty loud hum in my opinion. So that's it.
Thank you.
My name is Sheila Gallagher. I live in South River District on Donaldsburg Lane. Everything I was going to talk about has already been talked about. But I wanted to emphasize that, excuse me, this is not about one house. It's about a whole neighborhood. And I'm sorry, our neighborhood will be affected by this because we have to look at this thing, and it's not all about the views, it's about our property values. And we're going to lose a substantial amount of money on our houses, and we probably will not ever be able to find anybody to buy our houses. That is the really disturbing thing about this. And I just wanted to make a comment about the visual. Those were taken from Donaldsburg Lane up on the field. They were taken with trees with the leaves on them. They weren't taken in the winter and in the fall when the leaves are off the trees, and we get an even better view of the hillside. So I think this was kind of, well, we knew what they were going to do, but anyway, I just wanted to emphasize that it's not all about the views for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So it looks like everybody that's here has spoken. So we'll now take comments via computer and phone. This time I'll ask staff if there are any citizens that would like to make a comment from Zoom.
We have 2 attendees. If either one of the attendees via Zoom would like to make a public comment, now is the appropriate time, and use your raise hand button. I do have one letter that I'd like to read to allow them some time to raise their hand if they'd like. This is addressed to the Board of Commissioners of Rockbridge County. I'm writing this letter in lieu of being present because I'm on travel. I am on travel for my job as a certified real estate agent who has sold and listed many properties over the last 25 years, past 25 years. It is a statistical fact that when a power structure grid is erected in a residential area, the property value drops 3 to 11%. The structures can be power lines, water towers, landfills, and/or solar farms. The variables that impact home values are proximity, visibility, noise, sound, environmental impact. When serving as a realtor with Remax, we listed and sold properties near all of the structures listed above. In 100% of the listings, the seller and/or buyers were impacted financially by these structures. In several cases, we had a drop by the price as much as 20%. In many cases, the number of interested buyers would drop by 80%. In doing comps for these listings, it was nearly impossible to estimate due to the proximity of these structures. I strongly object to this project and hope that you will not approve it. Respectfully, Nicholas B. Carlucci. And I did have a comment that was mailed in by, I think it was Miss Gail Bailey that's already spoke. And so I won't reiterate her comments.
Okay.
With that, we do not have any hands raised at this time. So I'll turn the floor back over to the chair.
Okay. And we don't have anybody on the phone. No one's called in.
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So it looks like everybody, we're going to close the public hearing at this point and bring it back to the committee. If you all have any questions, comments, I'm going to let you guys, I've got a list of things, but you want to start, Mr. Lucas, since it's in your district?
restoring it back to original grade was my question. I know you're going to pull posts and you're going to go down, but restoring it back to original grade. I've been on that property and if you're going to try to make everything run to the front to catch it, it's going to be some heavy grading going on to make that work. And kind of curious to see a little bit better. I want to see a better layout of what you're going to do without the solar panels laying on top of what the grade's going to look like compared to what it is now. But it looks to me like there's going to be some pretty steep areas where you're grading it off and building up, and that's something I'd want to see. The other thing that I want to see is there's not any visuals of the equipment that you've got going in the driveway that's going to be sitting there. You got a nice driveway, you got a solar panel sitting there, and it's all like nothing. But you're going to have something with that. The stormwater management pond that we were talking about being, somebody said was impervious. Stormwater management ponds, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're meant to catch water and then it kind of leaches out, leaks kind of out everywhere and goes away. So it's not going to, shouldn't be any water ever in the bottom of a stormwater management pond. It should drain out. That's what it should do. By design, that's what it's supposed to do. So that part, I'm not as concerned about as maybe some of y'all are. I wouldn't want to see it from a road, so it would have to be screened. That needs to be inside of the screening, as far as I'm concerned. That's part of it. That's part of the project. Just because it's not the panels, it needs to be hidden. In my mind, I'd like to see some visual of that. The decommissioning plan, I think we need to look at it more on the line of, in my opinion, of recycling seems to be, it would be a whole lot better option than chucking them in a landfill. So yeah, it's going to cost more money, but definitely something to me that would need to be looked at. Panels. And the dollar figure that you got sitting out there that you're talking about putting a bond or cash up for, it's going to have to be something that increased with by some inflationary factor to be determined, because it's not going to cost $158,000 or $200,000 30 years from now. I'll be lucky if it costs $5 million to get rid of the stuff in 30 years. And that's the way things, it's the way it is. So, and granted, you would like to hope in 30 years, somebody's out there and I'll go, yeah, we'll give you X many dollars for these panels. It's costing you nothing. That would be the ideal, an ideal scenario where they would go away. But we're still when all said and done, the panels are down, the property's not going to be, in my mind, I don't think you can put it back to the original grade. And I know you can't do it for $158,000 as much as it seems like you're going to be having to dig. So something to look, but that's what I want to see.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? You have some, I'm sure you have something to share.
Sure. So I certainly hear all the concerns about property values, and I'm taking all of those into consideration. The tiered approach for the decommissioning of this project, one of my biggest fears is what is going to go into landfill. And you said 1% per panel. I think that's what you said. Okay. So we're not destroying a few panels off of our roof, 4 or 5. We're talking about thousands, but not just your project. Where I'm stuck on that landfill disposal is we've approved other projects that's going to be decommissioned around the same time, I would say. And our landfill is going to accommodate all of that. So I'm a little bit like pumping the brakes just a little bit until I can hear some more about that to my satisfaction. View shed is a huge issue here. I'm not sure. I really do appreciate the presentation you give. And I think it's semi-accurate, but I don't think it is truly what I wanted to see. Perhaps I can get with you and tell you that exactly what I would like to see. I'm not exactly sure I can explain it to the room full of people, but I'm not seeing what I want to see there.
Okay.
Those are my issues.
Well, I got one other thing I want everybody to realize. This would be a use by special exception. And right now in the ag district, there are a whole, gentleman CD said, there's a lot of things that are out there and that could be worse. And I think one thing that everybody should remember here, I'm throwing it up against the wall so you can think about it. Right now, Mr. Reese and Mr. Plott can go in there and put chicken houses or turkey houses in there. Okay, that's something that can happen, and I just want everybody to realize that, because noise, looking at them from your property, that would be something that you could have to look at, and just want to make sure everybody realized it. So,
Mr. Whitmore, do you have anything to share? Let's keep going here. I'm saving mine for after I hear what you guys have to say. So.
No, I appreciate everyone's, I think the primary concern that I'm hearing obviously is visual, and I think maybe some more visual analysis could be done. I appreciate Chris providing photos to start with, but maybe some from your backyards. I mean, maybe that would help us help alleviate concerns or prove that your concerns are really valid. I appreciate the company's proffers, if you will, offering to up the ante for decommissioning. I appreciate the value of clean energy and the revenue sharing. Spreading, even though you're on bark, I do think some local community members would benefit from it. I'd like to see the company address maybe vegetation management under and around the panels, like the lady suggested. I'm not sure what that looks like, whether it is spraying herbicides regularly or mowing. I have no idea how that's addressed, but those are just some initial thoughts and concerns I have.
Thank you. So I've got a whole list of concerns, and I was the only one who voted against the solar array that went up across from Fairfield Elementary. I have a lot of concerns about this project. You guys have brought some things to my attention, like the fact that the vegetation is as important or probably does more for our environment than the solar panels do. This is agricultural land. We're talking about a farm that is being farmed, and we're talking about taking it out of production for over 30 years. That concerns me. I'll tell you, the biggest thing was when he has on that slide 2 to 6 months of 80 trucks a day coming and going on Mackey's Lane. That if they got to come, they got to go. So is that 160 trips a day of trucks on that road? That's a concern. I mean, I don't care how many pictures you have. To me, that's not solved by screening. It's just not. There's too much traffic on that road. The comprehensive plan, we're supposed to be encouraging farming. I don't even like the term solar farm. It's not a farm. We're not growing anything there. It's not a farm. I have big concerns about the property values. For me, that's a big deal. We are selling this community as a historic area. We're selling it as a place to come and bring your children, to raise your children. And I'm just not sure, especially when you want to put this in the middle of a community that's not even going to benefit. I mean, that was huge, so you're going to save $10 a month, but oh, by the way, you're not even going to save $10 a month because your neighbor is going to down the road that has Dominion power. That's a problem for me. I just do not see the benefit to Rockbridge County. I do not see the benefit to these residents who have invested their time, money, and energy in this community. So that's just, I don't see how, for me, that I overcome it with asking them to create more visuals. It doesn't make a difference to me what the visuals are. I think the traffic and I think the decommissioning plan, when I look at that, I own a construction company. A house that cost me $15,000 3 years ago to take down. We had a similar house. It's costing $80,000 to take that house down today. I think it's too hard to project out what that cost is going to be in 30 years, even if you said 2 to 3% a year built in. I think that's, I just don't think that's realistic. And we don't even know if the company is going to be around. I see that as us, as a community, having to pay for the landfill, having to figure out where to put it, how to pay to take it down. That's just me. So. You guys want to address any of that? I mean, we keep asking about, we want more pictures, we want this. I'm just wondering what you guys, because you guys know how I feel.
I'll piggyback off that question. So based on the conversation with the commissioner, obviously grading without the panels on it, the grading plan without the panels, and that would be the current grade, the proposed grade, and then both. Because what the current grading plan has is the current proposed both with the solar panels. So I understand that comment of essentially getting three plans associated with the grading plan. Visualization, increased visualization, photo simulation showing the equipment, and some additional details on the stormwater management pond with those visualizations. The decommissioning plan, recycling versus landfill, with the increased value of cost with the decommissioning plan. Can we send this to the landfill? I apologize. That was on me that I did not get with the proper person at the landfill in time to find out if you had a dozen, 1,000, whatever it may be, panels at this time, would the landfill accept that? And any future issues they see. And then others on the panel reiterated the visual simulations. Also, as far as the staff level, there was some discussion. I'd like to make a few comments if that's appropriate.
Please.
There was some conversations on a moratorium that was actually discussed on Monday with the Board of Supervisors pertaining to solar projects. To our knowledge, there's no mechanism that we can implement a moratorium on a particular use. This came up a lot in the mid-2000s around here with subdivisions. A whole lot of people wanted a moratorium, a temporary moratorium on subdivisions. And that time we found that we could not do that. Why zoning? With that question, just to reiterate the zoning, there's certain in every zoning district in Rockbridge County, whether it's agricultural or industrial zone or the zones in between, there's permitted uses, by right uses, if you will, and then there's uses by special exception. So the only zone that is a by right use that this would be a by right use in is the general industrial zoning district. And there's other uses in the industrial zoning district that are permitted by right, not by special exception. As far as the change in zoning, obviously this is a zoning process, a public zoning process we're going through, but the zoning will remain the same. So examples of permitted uses in the agricultural zoning district, and this is particularly A2 zoning district, is agricultural. Obviously, we know that to include livestock confinement facilities, commercial plant nurseries, greenhouses, single family dwellings, private schools, churches, cemeteries, cottage industry, horse show grounds, public service buildings, public storage buildings, bed and breakfast homestays, et cetera. And so those are all permitted uses. You get their regulatory process. They're not legislative in nature. And so if you get your building permit, your erosion sediment control permit, it's a regulatory process. Then you get into your special exceptions that we're dealing with a special exception for a public utility currently. Other examples of a special exception, and to back up a little bit, special exceptions have been deemed to be special exceptions because they have a potential higher impact on the community, and so special exceptions is a public process that we're going through now. But other examples of special exceptions in the same zoning district, A2, would be lodge or resorts, country inns, golf courses, private non-commercial landing strips, heliports, commercial kennels, country general stores, farm machinery repair business, livestock auction markets, cell towers, junk storage, automobile graveyards, holding yards, mining operations, commercial sawmills, campgrounds, manufactured homes, cultural music centers, cultural arts centers, and special events, which are wedding reunions, receptions, and obviously the one we're talking about is public utilities as defined. So I thought it'd be beneficial to reiterate that we don't feel we can put a moratorium on this particular use, and go over the permitted uses and the uses by special exception in the particular zoning district we're dealing with.
Thank you for sharing that information. I think that's good for you all to know what's permitted in the ag district. Do you have anything else? No, Chris?
No, ma'am. I'm sorry. My battery is going dead.
I got you. Okay. So at this point, I guess we need to determine how you guys want to move forward. If somebody wants to make a motion, or if we want to send it back. I think we have another meeting in June, and I think we still would be within the 60-day period that we need to act on this. If there are additional things that you all want to see.
That is correct. As far as the 60 days per ordinance, the planning commission has 60 days to act on the application. And that's essentially from the first date of hearing that application, and the date from it is passed, it exceeds, I think it's a Sunday following our next meeting. So you do have the option to postpone taking action on this based on the comments, or have the applicant work on some of the comments, concerns that the planning commission citizens have expressed.
Okay. So I'm looking for direction here. Mr. Lucas, do you?
I mean, I asked for a lot as far as simulations and visual.
And that's going to make an impact
whatever.
on how you want to vote and
But-
what kind of motion you might want to bring forward, I'm
Yeah.
supposing.
Yeah, but I can sit here on either side of this, but the one thing that I don't know if I'll be able to get past, and I had it written down, is whether it's going to, how much it will affect property values and or these folks' way of life. Because right now, if I certainly understand why everybody's up in arms about it moving in and not having a solar array there or whatever it might be in their backyard when they move there. If you come in after the fact, it's one thing, but when you come in before and then somebody wants to come in and put something in,
Well, and something that
I-
you can benefit from.
whether they benefit from it or not, if it's something that comes in after the fact, I can certainly understand why they're upset. And that's something I don't know if I'm gonna get past with any type of visuals or whatever it might be. So I mean, like I say, I can go either way. We can kick this thing down the road and get some more visuals and see where it goes and see what happens, and get another commission member here hopefully next month, or we can
I think it just
Just
depends
give
on
her-
whether you think those visuals are going to impact how you feel about the project as a whole. You know, there's no reason to kick the can down the road if even with the visuals, it's not going to change how many trucks are on that road. It's not going to change, you know, there's things that it's not going to change. You know, that decommissioning plan is not going to change.
the decommissioning plan can change as far as what they're gonna do with them and where they're gonna go with them, if it's gonna be recycled or not. The trucks on the road don't bother me as bad as they made everybody else, because they're not gonna have 80 trucks or 60 trucks on that road all at one time going in there. Everything would be staggered. It would have to be, because they don't have the capabilities and wouldn't have the capabilities of unloading X number of solar panels or X amount of equipment there all at one time. They couldn't have them stacking in the road. I work in the trucking side of things, so I kind of understand a little bit about how that goes. Just so you know. And as far as looking at solar panels, I want everybody to realize the solar panels that are at on 11, that the 40-acre field that got approved, I can see that from my property. Okay. I can visually right up on the hill see that from my property. I can see it where it's going to be at. And I made that known in a meeting when we did that. And I didn't have a problem with it at that time, because I figured it was their property. They could do what they wanted to with it. If I had a problem with it, I'd have recused myself and I wouldn't even been here. I'd have been sitting in the audience with everybody else. But I just want everybody to realize that. So I understand what you're looking at and what everybody here could and part could see. So, I don't know where where Miss Hines is at on her side of this and what she's been involved with it. I don't know where the, other two commissioner members at, if they would vote for yay or nay. If we think we need some more information from the folks and it'll change our mind, we definitely want to give them every
that
chance and give them every
opportunity,
opportunity
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
do that, because I don't want to not give the members that are out in the audience from the local residents that are here that opportunity. We gave them an opportunity. We want to make sure we give the folks that are applying for a special exception permit that same opportunity. So
You have
I
a,
feel,
sure.
and since we can, if it was decision night, it'd be decision night, but we can let them gather a little more information. Whether it's going to change anybody else's mind, I don't know.
And one
So
caveat to that is the one thing that I didn't add on the list of the comments was the grass is ground cover and use of pesticides, and that essentially herbicides. Yes. Sorry.
I think that's a point that you should make, because I feel like I don't know how you can solve that.
Well,
Because you can't guarantee that's
No,
not going to happen.
no, I can't guarantee that, but it will, until I get some clarification on landfill and the number that they could handle or would handle. And I could never support the project until I knew those definitive answers, or as good as they can get at the time. So if you voted tonight, I would be a no. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah, well, I kind of figured that. So I figured that.
Mr. Whitmore, do you have, or want to weigh in here on this?
I mean,
If you
think
get more
it's only-
information, is it going to change your opinion?
It could. I mean, right now I'm leaning one way. The additional information may help. So I think it's only fair to the company to give them the opportunity to answer more questions, and you find folks can come back and we'll do this all over again.
What we need, Chris, a motion to continue?
Ms. Huffman, a motion to postpone taking action until the June meeting.
Just set the
Close
matter
public-
over to
right,
June.
And we have closed the public hearing, so that will not be reopened at the next meeting. We'll just allow them to come back and bring the additional information that we have requested, which I assume Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sladen will get to the company.
That's correct. So your motion would be to set over to the
When do you guys have to do
June meeting.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to set over to the June meeting.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate all you coming out. I appreciate the company.
I understand that there'll be no more public comment, but does that preclude us from still submitting ours or other opinions as we talk to people in the county to you via email or personally? That the citizenry can still do that.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Mhm. We read all those, so absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
We'll take a 2-minute recess.
Yeah, let's take a 2-minute
Literally a 2-minute
recess
recess.
and
The next meeting will be on the June the 8th at 7 PM, same place. Absolutely, yes. It is open to the public, absolutely.
Oh, no,
Amazingly, she's not up and about or anything, but she's a little better. I think she's starting to feed herself a little bit now. Harry said she looked better when he saw her. I've had a cold or the flu or something, so I've been
Hold on.
staying away from her. I
Yes.
don't want to take a chance of giving it to her.
It is
I have
Yeah,
vitamin
June 8th.
C on a regular basis, but I don't know what else to do. Maybe get some sleep.
You'll be right.
Off all the time.
I knew you'd be honest about that, and I knew you did. I told you. And that's why.
I often hear about what other people, how they live and work, and it's like, what am I doing? What did I do wrong? I always wish I'd gone on and taken it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
If you read these two things, it actually makes. Like, amount of carbon offset versus grass.
Iokas are here. Poor things. They waited for so long.
I mean, that's one. I want to get into see, should I recuse myself from Alexander's? I don't know whether I should ever not. That's something you have to talk about.
I think you're exactly right
Either
about
way,
that. That's a really good point.
That's just what I've been thinking.
make sure I brought it in.
Okay, are we ready to bring it back? Okay, we're gonna call the meeting back to order. We are on to agenda item number 6, Nicholas and Bethany Iacocca, 1492 Rafine Road, Rafine, Virginia, 24472. Application for a special exception permit to develop and operate a commercial kennel in the agricultural and general uses A2 zoning district. We are going to have a presentation.
I don't have a presentation, I apologize, but I do have a map associated with the conditions. And this is the same map that I was able to send out this morning. Bear with me here.
Gotta just keep all this. I don't have to print it in for next meeting.
The notes or the minutes from last meeting. So just want to get clarification.
All right, this is not a continued public hearing. We actually opened the public hearing, continued it until last month, I believe, and then closed it last month. With that being said, the commission postponed taking action on this application to get additional information on the types of structures.
I'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Oh, move on down the hall anyway.
Additional information on the actual structures, buildings associated with the kennel. So Mr. Zach and I were able to visit the site yesterday, develop a plan, and this is a modification of the existing plan that y'all saw last month. And so while being on the site, you had the kennel area, and then I'm sorry, last month you had a kennel area shown on approximate location of a kennel area shown on the property. With meeting with Nicholas, we were able to determine that it was a kennel area and a run area. And so essentially the kennels are depicted, the proposed kennels as shown here are example of kennels to be utilized in the kennel area. And then the entire area would be fenced off. So the entire area from here all the way around the black line would be fenced off. And within those, within the fenced off area, you would have the kennels themselves as depicted here. So with that being said, we developed some draft conditions that could be utilized, and these draft conditions were based on the site plan, or excuse me, the site visit that we did, and then additionally, the discussion of last month's meeting. So go ahead and read these. Number one, the development of the property 27-A-23B, for which the application is being made, shall be in substantial accordance with the development plan titled 1492 Rafine Road Development Plan, dated May 10th, 2022. And that's, of course, the plan here with the May 10th date. The number two is breeding limited to 2 of the following breeds of dogs, excuse me. A, golden retrievers, B, Labrador retrievers, and I transpose those, sorry. Blue heelers, Australian cattle, Great Pyrenees, and last is small and standard poodles. Number 3, draft condition is boarding operation is limited to 5 dogs. And number 4, limited to 15 dogs for breeding purposes, including any visiting stud dogs in accordance with the condition number 2. And we'll reiterate that. That's verbatim of what we discussed last month. Obviously, the Board of Supervisors on a same family, similar application, reduced that to a total, well, essentially, y'all's recommendation was 30 dog total for breeding purposes. They felt that it would have been better suited for 30 dogs total, regardless of for breeding purposes or not. So I'll go ahead and read that one again. Number 4, limited to 15 dogs for breeding purposes, including any visiting stud dogs in accordance with the condition number 2. Number 5, all activities shall be within the existing dwelling and or the building / areas as shown on the reference development plan. Any runs off of the dwelling shall be located in the rear of the existing dwelling. With that, I'd like to turn over the floor over to Mr. and Mrs. Ioka and go from there. Thank you.
Nice to see you all again. So yes, Chris and Zach, they came out yesterday and we went over the details, and basically the space here that you see in the grafted areas where the kennels would be, as in the photo that you saw above. That's at our other place. That's at our 1372 home, is the picture of the kennels behind our house. And so that's what we're proposing also to put in this spot, the same sort of kennels in that spot. We looked at it, and of course we asked for 15 to be able to have 15 breeding dogs. There is space there to actually have 26 of those pens. So we have, you could have 26 dogs. That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for 15, much like what we started with on our other property. And then we had a test run to be able to see basically for 3 years how that went. It went well, thankfully. And then we were granted the additional dogs for those. So the run area is obviously for exercise, but that's not limited just to that area as the exercise, because back here in the kennel part, we have there's a 20-foot, there's space for a 20-foot space between the kennels. So the dogs have a full range of running back and forth. And that's what our dogs love to do. They really like to line out and run back and forth and have that space. So it's kind of nestled down. I know some of you have been out and seen the property, and it's nestled down below. And there's really the only visual is from the road right on that corner. And that's the only way to look up in there. Anywhere else, you cannot see it from it. It's very private. So we don't have a lot of traffic on that road as far as runners, bikers, that kind of thing. There's just the normal people, as you probably know, going back and forth to work, much like Mackey's Lane or anything else around here. So if you have any questions about anything, I'd be glad to try to clarify, but.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, we will bring it back here. Do you all have any questions? No? Do we want to make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm ready.
go for it. You've got a draft motion?
I do.
Okay, great. I'm sorry?
I think we need to, it says 15 dogs for breeding purposes. I think we need to follow Board of Supervisors.
Take out the breeding, I
and
think so
let's
too.
do 15 dogs total and leave it at that for now, I think, Tim, because I think if we go to the Board of Supervisors, they're gonna probably do that anyway.
Same exact thing.
Just save us a little work.
Tell you what, I'm gonna scramble and get that exact information so we can utilize it. I almost know it verbatim nowadays, but let me get that real quick.
Like we talked before, it's not chiseled in stone. You can come back and when everything goes good and everybody's happy and no neighbors and no complaints, it's like, oh, all's well, we can do something a little more later on. So works.
So the actual condition that was utilized, the actual wording of the condition that was utilized in the Board of Supervisors final ordinance was limited to 30 golden retrievers, excluding puppies 16 weeks or younger was the final ordinance. Obviously, we're not talking about exclusively golden retrievers, but
Just 15 dogs excluding any puppies under the age of 16 weeks.
Because, I mean, and the reason I say that, because we're sitting here, and I think you got a little puzzled look on your face, but anyway, it's 15 dogs for breeding, and I'm the guy that's run the place, not you, not your brother. I move in here 10 years down the road, like I've said before, you decide to sell it. And I've got 15 pet dogs in the house and I got 15 dogs in the kennels. That's the part you got to look at, and we got to look at down the road. Not saying y'all are going to do that, but
One question, if anybody though could have 50 pet dogs without even having a kennel?
anybody can have 50 pet dogs that have an account. You're correct.
Till the county goes home.
That's right. So, I mean, but that's, we're not having a kennel and we're not breeding dogs for resale. So
So do we need to leave breeding in there? 15 breeding dogs and,
I'm saying 15 dogs total for
Total.
breeding,
but not including the puppies under 16
15
weeks.
dogs total.
if we want to mirror, if the goal is to mirror the
think that is-
approved ordinance, what was approved in the other situation, I should say, it would read, in my opinion, it would read limited to 15 dogs in accordance with condition number 2, excluding puppies 16 weeks or younger.
I say leave it at that, and then down the road, if they want more, they can come back and go, yes, we would like to have more. We've not had any complaints. It's been 2-3 years in, whatever it might be, all's well.
Okay.
And it's a trial run, just like the last one, basically is what it'll be. Come up.
Ms. Huffman?
I have one point to make. In the one that was approved by the Board of Supervisors, where there was a total number of dogs, there was no boarding operation for
That's
that
why it
one.
says 15 dogs total.
So your intent is to also include the 5 dogs for boarding or to make them separate. That's my point. You might want to say which one you want.
Excellent point, as always, Ms. Huffman. So one alternative would be leave it 15 dogs total, and that would include the 5 dogs for breeding, for boarding. Or another alternative, if it's the will of the planning commission, it would say breeding operation is limited to 15 dogs in accordance with condition number 2, to clarify that.
Then you're
So
opening it up to 20.
20, right?
To
15
20
breeding
or
dogs and
20.
5, up to
Plus-
5 boarding dogs.
Plus the 5 dogs they got for pets that are running around the house inside the house.
Mhm, right.
I mean, I'm just saying it.
Is it possible to say, if we're gonna do the dogs things, is it possible to say 20 dogs? That way it would include the 5 possible for boarding. Now, we talked last time that our, what we plan for that is that we'll probably have maybe a dog or 2 boarded 2 or 3 times a year. So it won't be an ongoing thing because it's really the boarding, we can't board on our other property. And so that's why we wanted to put this in with this property so that we can actually have, we've been contacted just this week about people who want to
People
have
need it.
their female dogs brought to us because of our good genetics. Well, we can't do that right now because that is boarding a dog. And so if we had 10 dogs over at this property, we'd only really be limited to having 10 dogs. And I'm just clarifying that. I'm sure you totally understand that, because we would have to always be very careful that we never exceeded the 15. However, if we had 15 and then we were able to have 20 dogs, that additional 5 would be our kind of leeway there. I'm just saying that. You make your decision. I know you have the information. I just wanted to say that. So
Right, well, and if you say 20 dogs total, does that mean you can be boarding 10 dogs and breeding 10 dogs? I mean, do we,
5 is what
well,
we
I'm
did.
just, we need to be very clear about that. So, I think,
What do you think, Tim? This is in your.
Oh, you done confused me so much. I don't know what.
I think it's 5 boarding dogs and 15 breeding dogs, or we need to say 20 dogs total, one or the other.
I personally like the 20 dogs total. I really do. I really
Go with that.
haven't saw a huge issue about the number of dogs. You've conducted your business very well. We've had no complaints. I do realize this runs with the property. That's my only concern about doing it, but I know you can come back at a later time and address it. I just don't feel like you have to. That's just my opinion. So I'll make the motion as our draft motion, our first option here, but I want you to tell me exactly how I want 4 worded
Okay.
with the 20 dogs, Chris.
20 dogs total.
And I might lean on Ms. Huffman, but currently I have the breeding and boarding operations limited to 15 dogs, excluding puppies 16 weeks or younger.
We're going to change that to 20 because we want to make sure.
I'm sorry, yes. It would say breeding and boarding operations. Speaking of this, breeding and boarding operations limited to 20 dogs, excluding puppies 16 weeks or younger.
And in accordance with condition number 2.
I don't think it is in accordance with this condition number 2, unless we're talking about boarding only the following. And I should have asked that because if it's boarding and breeding operation limited to 15, I'm sorry, boarding and breeding operations limited to 20 dogs in accordance with condition number 2, that would still work because condition number 2 is breeding, is talking about breeding. So would that be appropriate to keep that in there and it still specifies it's half dozen, 6 other?
I think so.
Okay.
20 dogs total. Maximum 15 for breeding, maximum 5 for boarding.
Well, that's what we're trying to get away from.
But that's where you would want to be, but a total of only 20 dogs total.
But what I'm getting from the conversation is we're not breaking down the boarding versus
Doesn't want
breeding.
to
We're
break
just,
that down. He just wants to say 20 dogs.
But
I really
so
do.
they could have 20 breeding dogs, obviously, or they could have 20.
It's 20 dogs.
Yes, 20
no matter
dogs.
what.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
so is there some reason you really want to break it down, or, I mean,
the only breaking down I would, you don't want to have 20. Right now, if you don't break it down, can be a complete boarding operation with 20 boarded dogs getting boarded there. All
That's
right?
correct.
And that, if you don't break it down and specify, and that's where you end up with noise issues. When you got everybody's dog in their room here and a couple from some places.
Not familiar
and
with
they're not
each
familiar
other.
with each other, that's when you're sitting there and I'll hear them in the other side of the Petro on the east side of interstate. Because they'll
Wanna break
be
it
they'll be
down.
fighting and
5
barking
boarding,
and having a
15.
good old time trying to get to know each other, which I don't care, but somebody else down the pike down through there may actually squeal about it or within earshot of it might. That's why I'm saying let's put a number cap on the boarding side of it anyway, because that's what they've asked for. So let's give them that. But it's just like a 20 dog maximum on the property other than breeding. And that gives, like I said, that keeps the 17 pets that somebody might want to have away from that end too. Not saying it'll be y'all, but the next people might. That's why I do that. It's like you said, it files a property. That's the only reason I say
it does. So I'm gonna try to give you an option here. How would you like that? How would you like that to be?
So,
What would suit you the best there? And we'll see if we can live with it.
right. Well, we're totally good with the 5 max for boarding. That side is good. So, but to have the 20 overall gives us leeway so that we really truly can have our 15 dogs on the property. But that, because then we can make the decision, okay, are we going to only eat up that 5 space and have 2, 3 more dogs, then we'll only have 2 that we can board. Are we willing to do that with our business? We can make that decision because we have that 5
Flexibility.
space kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's what I feel like.
We
is
limit
like,
the boarding is the main
So,
thing. for
so
us.
15 breeding and 5 boarding.
Yes.
And that's
A
like the way it's
maximum
written.
of 5 board. The maximum of 5 board is what
That's
it
the
gets you.
key right there.
That's the key, because
And essentially that's how it's worded
That's how it's
currently. I mean,
We went around the bush to get
yes.
to the same spot where we were.
only told.
with the modification of for breeding purposes and any visiting stud dogs. So essentially it goes back full circle conversation. The condition number 3 would state boarding operation is limited to 5 dogs, period. Condition number 4 would say limited to 15 dogs in accordance with the breeding operation is limited to 15 dogs in accordance with condition number 2, excluding puppies 16 weeks or younger.
See, we're looking at 20 dogs maximum, but a maximum of 5, maximum of up to 5 dogs boarded, or a 20 dog maximum on a property for breeding or boarding. So that gives you the 5 dog, it's a 5 dog maximum on boarding. And they could run up to, if they didn't want to board any dogs there,
We could have
they
20
could run
breeding
20,
dogs.
have 20 breeding dogs there with puppies. That gives them the option if they want to, but a maximum of 20 dogs on a property. So you got the best of both worlds and you got to bounce what you want to do.
And I'm good with that.
Okay, bear with me here
I'm
for a
good.
second.
I mean, that makes sense.
I'm good with that.
They got 20 dogs and they can do what they want to do, and but they can't board 20 dogs. Which is what I was wanting to get to.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Good.
Sorry, Tim.
Good to think
I'm
through.
good.
Sometimes we just gotta
I'm-
talk right through it.
I'm good.
You know, are you good with the breeds that were listed in the minutes from the last time? It had German Shepherds and Bernese Mountain Dogs also included, but
so what we feel like, and we know with you, we can come back at a later date. If we decide to go that route, we come back at a later date and say, hey, we're not going to do this breed. We would like to open up to this breed. And we know we can talk to you then about that. Right now, the breeds that we have there, we're comfortable with that at this time. And then at a later time, if we decide to go Bernese Mountain Dog or whatever, we're fine with coming back before the board at that time and discussing that. But right now, the way it sits, we're pleased with that. So thank you. Good.
Breeding pools, aren't they a little bit on the yappy side?
The poodles?
Yeah.
They can be more on the yappy side. Yes, they can. Yeah, they can. Yep. We had one, he was not.
All of them I've ever seen been a little yappy, so that's why I'm.
I have a feeling they're gonna make sure they're not yappy because they want to make sure they can come back in a few years for the next.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yes.
I'm waiting on Chris to get
This was
his.
drafting up.
Get his. I'm gonna read right down to there and let him fill that one in. I want it to be right.
Still gets a little bit, what I have is boarding and breeding operations limited to 20 dogs total, excluding puppies 16 weeks or younger, with a maximum of 5 dogs associated with the boarding
I think that
operations.
sounds good.
I'll make a motion. We approve that draft motion with that added.
And that would replace the current number 4, and that would delete the number 3. Number 3 that states the same thing. Boarding is, I'm with you.
All right, go for it, Tim, and he'll fill in when he needs to.
I make a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the special exception permit for Nicholas and Bethany Iacco to develop and operate a commercial kennel in the agricultural general use A2 zoning district on property located at 1492 Rafine Road, identified as tax map 27-A-23B in the Walker's Creek Magisterial District, be approved with the following conditions. The development of the property 27A-23B for which the application is being made shall be substantial accordance with the development plan titled 1492 Rafine Road Development Plan dated May 10th, 2022. Breeding limited to 2 of the following breeds of dogs: Labrador retrievers, golden retrievers, blue heelers, Australian cattle, Great Pyrenees, small and standard poodles. We're doing away with number 3. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You read number 4.
Number 4 would be boarding and breeding operations limited to 20 dogs total, excluding puppies 16 weeks or younger, with a maximum of 5 dogs associated with the boarding operations. Boarding operation, I should say.
Perfect. All activities shall be within the existing dwelling and or the area buildings as shown as reference development plan. Any runs off the dwelling shall be located in the rear of the existing dwelling.
Yes, sir. That's what I have. Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that was
It passes.
Mr. Whitmore, second. Perfect. Thank you.
And it passes. Thank
Very
you.
much. And
Thank you for your
one-
patience this
one more
evening.
I'd like to say is I really appreciate being back and forth in here the last few times. I really appreciate seeing your objectivity, what you deal with, and it's given me a greater, much greater appreciation.
So you'd like to serve? Is
Would
that
you?
what, is that what I'm hearing?
Would you?
Ah. He didn't say no.
I do like the mind. I do like that, but.
We're gonna keep
I
that
just
in
wanna-
mind.
I just want to say that I really do appreciate what you do. And I even when you are for something or against something, I see your point and I understand why you went that way. And it's really enlightening. I really enjoy seeing that. So thank you. very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming
Thank
in.
both of y'all. Thank you.
Okay. We are on to agenda item 7, zoning text amendment discussion, auction sales yard in B1.
So Zach is going to take care of this agenda item, but I'm going to pull up, he has material that was submitted in the package with you, and I'll, for talking points, I'll pull that up for him. Boom. All right, we're getting there. And I would like to note, Mr. Sam Bennett is in attendance this evening with us. Mr. Bennett is the gentleman that essentially has propelled this conversation forward in the Rafine area. And as we know, we don't get into the level of details on the particular site because this is a countywide zoning text amendment. But I would like to note that Mr. Bennett's in attendance and was intended to be a Zoom last time. Yep, perfect. So with further ado, I'll have Zach come up and review his findings. This isn't going to display too terribly well, but if needed, we can reference this.
So we were instructed to take a look at surrounding counties, basically see where they stand as far as their zoning ordinances in regard to auction houses, auction facilities. They all define them a bit different. Some of them don't define them at all. So I made a list basically of the few surrounding adjacent counties to kind of base if we want to make a decision about this, something we can base it off of. So the first one we'll start with is Albemarle County. So there was actually no definition listed for auction house or auction facility in Albemarle County, but they do list them as permitted by a special use permit in the highway commercial zoning district. There's no mention of auction houses in any of the other zoning districts. Highway commercial is basically, it's similar to what would be kind of RAT. And then there's also one in Rockingham County that is similar to that we'll get to in a bit. Amherst County defines auction house as a structure or enclosure where goods are sold by auction. They're permitted in the special use, they're permitted by special use permit in the general commercial B2 zoning district. There's no mention of auction houses in any of the other zoning districts. Following that, you can see a screenshot, and on the next page, it'll have auction houses highlighted. Now, one thing to note is the first screenshot was just so I could get general commercial district, so show the district. But those are actually permitted uses. The next screenshot that actually shows auction houses, you can see the numbers reset as it goes to special use permit. The next county is Augusta County. They define auction houses as a building within which objects of art, furniture, or other goods are offered for sale to persons who bid on the object in competition with each other. They're listed as a permitted use in the general business district. Agricultural districts allow them with a special use permit. There's no mention of auction houses in the industrial district. The following screenshot, and I noticed actually as I was putting this together, that it's not highlighted on here. So it'll actually be under R as retail sales and services, about a third of the way down. You can find that there. Botetourt County doesn't have a definition for auction house, but it says that auction houses are listed as a permitted use in the industrial M3 zoning district. There's no mention of auction houses in any of the other zoning districts. Now, one thing to make note of in Botetourt County is it's listed as livestock and auction markets, but it doesn't specify whether that's livestock auctions or livestock and auction markets, with the auction markets being separate with other goods. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Rockingham County definitely had the most comprehensive plan regarding anything related to auction houses. They defined it as auction facility, a building area including an outdoor area used for the public sale of goods, wares, merchandise, or equipment to the highest bidder. They're permitted by special use permit in both agricultural districts, mixed use districts, and industrial I-1 districts. They're listed as a permitted use in the rural village and planned industrial zoning districts. Rural village is basically just, rural villages get to make up their mind whether they want them there. And then the planned industrial district differs from the industrial district in that it is typically along major highways designated as urban growth areas. So that is similar to the first one, which had the highway commercial zoning district in Albemarle County. And then I've also screenshotted the chart that Rockingham County utilizes to show you which ones it's a special use permit and which ones are permitted. And that is the last of them.
The screenshots are really hard to see. My eyes must just be really old.
Thank you. I'm with you.
Yeah, I keep hitting
Oh,
the
I
plus
got you.
sign.
Like it isn't the faint part, it's the tiny part.
Of all the definitions, I like the Rockingham County definition the best. It goes to the highest bidder. It kind of covers everything.
That's a building area, including an outdoor area. So that would cover outdoor along with the building. Now, most places are going to end up with a building somewhere along the lines.
Yes, and if I recall, this is what I was explaining to Mr. Bennett at the very beginning of the process. We always look to see, okay, can we defend that this is a legit existing use by special exception or a permitted use? And we currently have in a business zone livestock market and sales pavilion. And so the connection there, originally, I thought the connection there was livestock, but then the sales pavilion, we don't have a definition for sales pavilion. So the connection could be that it is the auction part of it. Livestock markets are obviously often auctions, that type of thing. But then you go to the sales pavilion. So I was uncertain that, well, one, it's a sales pavilion, so it would require some sort of structure. It would not be solely outdoor sales. And so, and Mr. Bennett's plan is to start with outdoor sales and then potentially grow into a building, if I'm correct.
And
And
this
so
is in the ag.
a business zone, the one particular,
B1.
we're talking about a business zone.
Okay.
And I think it's appropriate to talk about a general business zone. But with that being said, it's obviously a lot of investment time, money and time and money on the business owner side of things. So I felt it would be worthwhile to go through this process to defend or to define it and then provide it as a permitted use by special exception, et cetera. So essentially what I'm trying to say is everyone is on firm footing moving forward,
Right.
and there's no questions.
To me, it seems like, this is a business. We're talking about putting it into B1. I don't know why we would have a problem with that. It makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know why you'd have to have a special exception for an auction house in a business area. It is a business. Agree? Yes.
My only statement on that is conflicting land uses as far as existing businesses and an outdoor completely. If it was enclosed, I think it'd be no problem at all.
Mhm.
But as far as an outdoor sales area and storage of sales, storage of sales material, noise associated with it, those type of things. Now, I'm not saying it's not a permit. It would not be worthwhile to have a permitted use in all the business zones, but there could very well be some business zones that have conflicting uses, adjacent conflicting uses.
If we're sitting here and we're gonna do it by special exception anyway, we can cover a lot of the bases as far as indoor and outdoor. I mean, over where and I'll throw this in, I know where the properties that you're talking about and where it's located at now. There's more noise coming off interstate than there ever will be coming off the auction side of it. So, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So and if you're sitting and you're coming into, let's say, not downtown Lexington, but let's go into business zone right outside the city and you're gonna have it in a vacant lot. You can back up and point there and go, hey, this doesn't fit with the Dunkin' Donuts on one side and the hotel on the other side because you might be disturbing somebody. So you would deny it. Correct?
That is correct. Yes.
That's what we would want to do.
You
So
could,
use by
you could,
special exception is the way to go because each property's got its own unique set of circumstances and or could have.
absolutely. I mean, a viable reason to deny a special exception or adverse impacts to the adjoining property
Right.
owners, inconsistency with the surrounding land uses, et cetera, et cetera.
So better than a permitted use, we'd rather do it as a special exception in the B1.
It makes it busier here, but it gives you that, it would give you at least the option of going, no, it doesn't suit next to
Mhm.
Tim's business over there.
Right.
Again.
Oh, guess we better wrap it up. What do you think?
No problem. What do you want? What do you want? You want a motion to adjourn?
No, we need a motion for, I guess it looks like a proposed amendment, instruct staff to take it to a public hearing next month. I need a motion.
I'm with you. I like the Rockingham County's
Definition is great.
definition of, what do you think, Tim?
It was fine. I
You
didn't
don't
have
think there's
any-
anything we would
I
need to
didn't
add
have
to
any
it?
problem with that.
All right.
One question, just for my curiosity. You got that handy right there. I done filed mine back away. What did Augusta County say?
As far as the definition,
Yeah. As far as the definition?
It's a bill, I got right here, turn to the same page, a building within which objects of art, furniture, or other goods are offered for sale to persons who bid on the object in competition with each other. So it's
Very
unique
wordy
to a building.
me. It's very wordy and it specifically talks about a building, which
It
I
does,
don't
it does
think-
require a building.
I don't think we want.
And a lot of these, I mean, a lot of it, especially the type of items that we're talking about, auctions aren't housed inside of a building to begin with. So
Well, I didn't have any problem with that. The reason I asked for clarity was I just wondered how Ben Howe has his say.
Probably been grandfathered in there.
I don't know. I just was
Yeah.
curious.
and which one was, what was that one? The
In Stewart's draft.
Yeah.
House, he has a consignment sale there and the only building there that I know of is his little trailer he rides around in. Not trying to cause any.
Sure,
trouble.
yeah, no, that's out of that's out of my jurisdiction anyway, but it would be interesting to
Well,
sort
no, I
of
don't-
verify. Yeah.
I'm not-
I was wondering the same thing, but I'm not rocking a boat on that one.
Well,
That's
I'm
been
not
there
either, and I don't want anybody to think that I was.
Oh, somebody gonna make a motion?
Well, to me, this is mainly for ag equipment,
Excuse me.
cars, whatever somebody you can dump off and somebody will want to bid on. If it's a pile of scrap metal, I reckon they can bid on it all the way.
I think the Rockingham County definition is broad enough. Public sale of goods, wares, merchandise, or equipment to the highest bidder. I think that covers all things.
Make a motion to take it to.
Yeah, and we may, if you don't mind, we may title it something as an auction facility. I mean, we may, I can't remember the term we used, auction sales yard or something. I can't remember, but we may modify the auction facility, but utilize the intent of the definition or not even intent, utilize
As
the
long as we
definition.
say building and or outdoor. area.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what stuck out on me on this one as well. And then also, as Ms. Hennis stated, public sale of goods, wares, merchandise, or equipment. And that actually should be and or equipment.
So you would like,
You have a motion?
I'll make a motion to take it to public hearing. You would need any verbiage in that, or how do you want it?
To direct staff to take it to public hearing and to define auction sales yards or something similar with this definition, obviously, and then provide that use by special exception in the business zone.
I'll make a motion
Yeah.
that, I'll make a motion that we do
What
exactly
he
what Chris said.
And we need a second.
I'll second.
We have a second and all in favor? Aye. All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Rockingham County, that was about as quick as you're gonna get that one done. Yeah, motion and a second.